what? From x minus 1, we see that 1 is a 0, because 1 minus 1 is 0. And 0 times all this is 0. And 2, negative 2, is a 0, because that makes this term factor 0. And negative 3 is a 0, because that makes this factor 0. Any factor is 0, the product is 0. So 1, negative 1, and negative 2 are zeros of this polynomial. 1, negative 2, and negative 3. Okay? Now we have a statement up here, if x equals 3 is a factor, then the polynomial can be written as x minus 3 times some lower degree polynomial. Okay? And this is just in response to question number 4. And maybe let's put a date on this. This is 17/03/22. Okay? In answer to number 4, so if x minus 3 is a factor of the polynomial, why then do you conclude that 3 is a root of the polynomial? Well, if x minus 3 is a factor, then the polynomial can be written x minus 3 times a result that has no remainder. And if x equals, if x equals 3 is a root, x minus 3 is a factor. So it follows that x minus 3 divides evenly into the polynomial. Okay? And the polynomial given in that equation is this one. And if you plug in 3 for x, this would better work out. Let's see, does it? X to the 4th would be 81, x cubed would be negative 27, negative 11x squared would be negative 99, that would be 27, and that would be 18, you add all those up. Man, I already kind of lost track of my numbers. I think that adds up to 0. And if it does, this should divide evenly. Then, what can we do? We can graph the polynomial, okay? Now, that's number 4, that was inserted late, so let's come back to this one, okay? By dividing x minus 1 into this, we concluded that we have these zeros. So the polynomial has those 3 zeros, so we can draw a graph. The zeros are at negative 3, negative 2, and 1, which divides the x-axis into 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals, which I've indicated by different colors. On each of these intervals, there is no place where the function is 0, because the only place it's 0 is at the 3 zeros. So between here and here, the function never changes from positive to negative because it doesn't have any zeros. So the function from here to here is always of the same sign. Well, if x is a big negative number, then all 3 of these factors are going to be big negative numbers, which means that when you multiply them together, you're going to get a negative because you got 3 negatives. And it's going to be humongous because all these numbers are huge. So that tells us that to the left here, we're going down to the basement here, okay? We're going way down. So the graph is going to look like this to the left of this 0. Between this 0 and this 0, well, we can pick a number between negative 3 and negative 2 and plug it in and see what we get. Now, using the factored form, it's a little easier to do that. If x is halfway between negative 3 and negative 2, well, negative 2.5. Now, we don't have to choose halfway. We could choose negative 2.1, negative 2.99 if we wanted to. But at negative 2.5, x minus 1 said is negative 2.5, it's actually negative 3.5, isn't it? Okay? Negative 2.5 minus 1 is negative 3.5. Negative 2.5 plus 2 is negative a half, negative half. And negative 2.5 plus 3 is positive half. That's a negative, that's a negative. This is a positive. 2 negatives make a positive. So the function is positive at x equals negative 2.5. It can't change sign between here and here, so it's got to be positive between here and here. So the graph's going to look something like this. Okay, it's going to have other characteristics that we aren't going to be able to talk about until you've had calculus, and that's not part of this course. So just refer to it right there's the way it looks. Okay, well, another thing we usually do is we usually figure out our y-intercept. Y-intercept occurs when x equals 0. If x equals 0, then we have -1 and 2 and 3. Multiply those together, we get -6. So that if x equals 0, y is -6, giving us the point 0, -6 here. Well, that means that between here and here, the thing has to be negative all the way, because there's no way for it to go through 0 except at these points. And then to the right, a huge positive number is going to make all these huge positive numbers, going to make a humongous positive number. Things going to take off in this direction.